you could see what I see. Our communities in unity. No frustration from brutality. With our black nation, a reality.
This is my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, is my perspective.
All right, everybody, welcome to an episode of the New African Perspective, the show that is dedicated to the liberation of new African people. I am your host, Brother Prophecy, and as always, I have the wonderful black tackler sisters queen.
Mama Ayo, free the land.
Yes, and Sister Sama'at.
And, you know, if you haven't figured out by now, they're just not regular queens. We actually have the president and vice president right here on the show every week at the Voices of New Africa. So, you know, we kind of showing out right here. But we are part of something called the New African Independence Movement. And as far as like black nationalists are concerned, there's some colors that are synonymous with us, particularly the color red, the color black, and the green. Like X-Clan used to say, this is protected by the red, the black, and the green. Sissy. But anyway, in particular with the Republic of New Africa, notice that our flag is arranged a little bit different. At the top, you have green. In the middle, you have red. And at the bottom, you have black. And the red is a little bit smaller than the other two colors. Why is that?
Well, we know that the green is put on the top because our motto and our purpose and our strategy is that we are going to free the land first. And of course, the green represents the land. And the red is a little bit smaller because we want to talk about, yes, we're going to spill some blood. Bloodshed will be shed in our quest for land independence and, of course, self-determination. But not as much, because we're going to do it through the process of reparations, international recognition, sovereignty, and of course we build on the black, our quest for black people, new Africans.
Yes, Ashe.
Definitely. That's what's up. So that's the reason. So when you see that green, red, black flag, you know why. And speaking of that, we want to say it a little blade. We want blood. We want to make it clear. We ain't just trying to shed our blood. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's all I'll say about that. But, Madam President, what do we have on tap for the show today?
Okay, so we always got some good stuff for you. We have our Cadre Corner. We'll be discussing the Declaration of Independence, the New African Declaration of Independence, the Republic of New Africa's Declaration of Independence, so that we can be very, 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 very clear. And in our Black Power Files, we will be talking and discussing and celebrating and honoring the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Ooh. Yes, and then our main topic of the day will be, are white liberals our friends? We got to have that discussion, y'all.
That's a good question,
That is a very important question.
But I guess we ought to start with some hot topics, current events, what's been going on. I know I was reading the other day that 3 police officers and 2 paramedics were actually charged with the murder of a young 23-year-old black man by the name of Elijah McClain. Now, for those of you who don't remember his story, this happened in 2019. It was a brother walking home from the store, and police approached him, said he was looking suspicious. Somebody called about a suspicious looking black man, and they approached him. He told them, hey, I'm an introvert. Please respect, my boundaries. And they attacked the brother, put him to the ground, put him in a chokehold, and paramedics showed up and they injected him with this drug called ketamine, which is like something you give for an anesthetic. And it threw the brother into cardiac arrest and he died. He was 23 years old. Now, when you look at the film, the footage, it appears that this brother may have autism or something, kind of going on with him, because he said, hey, I'm I'm an introvert. And when he was on the ground struggling, he was saying, I'm not bad. I'm not a bad person. I'm not violent. I'm not nothing like this. I'm just different. And it was like he was pleading with the police officers to see him. What's really heartbroken is when you listen to this brother, it just sounds like he's just trying to get the police to recognize his humanity. And it's really heartbroken because he seems like a really genuinely nice, sweet brother that, might just have a little social anxiety or something, but these police are charged. The paramedics are charged. Y'all have any comments about,
Well, I think that's typical of how they treat our young male children. I think that they don't listen. They don't assess the situation, which is a direct comparison with when they have to deal with their own white youth. They'll talk to them. They'll reason with them. Why is it always shoot first, ask questions later? I think that as a officer of the law, you should be able to assess before you take direct action. So I think it's very sad, and of course, I'm very happy that the family is now getting justice, because in many cases around this country, our families don't get justice for what I call the illegal lynching and murder of our children, our youth.
Exactly, and we know that the current day police department is synonymous with slave catchers. We know these particular police departments are direct derivatives of slave catchers. That's why it is important for us to zero in and focus on building for self, doing for self, and making sure that we are in alignment with land independence. Okay? We have no other choice. We have to do for self, build for self, police ourselves, because we can't keep begging and pleading for justice within this system. It's a never-ending battle. Never ending.
Exactly. That's just asking your enemy to go out and punish himself. That's just, if you come tell me, hey, I don't like what you did, you need to punish yourself, I'm gonna be like, okay, I got you. Wait on it. Interesting thing about this story, this happened in 2019, and they were just charged like last month. And the only reason why this case really got any attention, because initially they were just, let off the case, let off the hook. But because of what happened with George Floyd and everything that happened, surrounding all of the George Floyds and Breonna Taylors and the civil unrest, they were forced to re-examine a lot of the cases, and this was one of them. And that's the only reason why they even took a second look at this case, and you actually got some form of justice. When I won't even say yet, because they were just charged. They haven't been,
charged yet.
Yeah. So.
Well, I can only say that attests to persistence, because I know that if I'm a mother and I know that one of my children have been illegally murdered by the police, I would not rest. And it reminds me of the case with Emmett Till. His mother didn't rest. She was still, to her dying day, seeking justice for her son.
Yeah, big ups to the black woman for holding it down, So I don't think we've talked about this, but our last week's show was actually deleted from YouTube. And they actually, when I looked and I was like, what's going on? They said we were charged with spreading misinformation according to their policy. And I looked up their policy, and it was like, okay, you can't say anything that contradicts the CDC or the World Health Organization. And I was thinking to myself, I'm usually real careful with my research. And I was like, just about everything we talked about was actually verified by the CDC or the World Health Organization. So for those of you who was looking for our show from last week and you couldn't find it, that's what was going on. But we appealed, and guess what? We won, y'all. Boom.
Very good.
We're back on.
Back on, you know what I'm saying? So with that, here's some more COVID information. Y'all thought we was going to stop talking about it. Nope.
Every
Never.
week we're going to have a COVID update.
Never.
So I just saw this story where there have been like 10,000 people in America who are claiming that the COVID vaccine is responsible for hearing problems that they had. They had the vaccine, and shortly after, they had this large ringing in their ears. Some people even lost their hearing completely, and they call this what they call it?
Tinnitus?
Tinnitus, yeah,
Tinnitus, yes.
tinnitus, and and they've been trying to get help for this. Now in Europe, it's been so bad that the European equivalent to the FDA has made Johnson and Johnson label or list tinnitus.
Yes, tinnitus.
Tinnitus as one of the possible side effects of their vaccine. Now, here in the United States, unfortunately, they're just denying it, saying, well, there's no evidence that the vaccine is connected with this. Meanwhile, many of the people, thousands of people, a lot of them can't get help. They've been trying to get help for this issue, and they've been turned away. People have actually been saying, well, you're just trying to be anti-vaccine or whatever. And they're saying that, no, we're not anti-vax. We're not anti-government. We just need help. So, ultimately they're saying, well, okay, if this is happening, go to the doctor and check it out. But it ain't the vaccine fault. That's been kind of what it is. But I think, we need some study. We need some research to verify exactly what is this, what's going on. What do y'all have to say about that?
And, really and truly, and I think we mentioned this last week, a lot of different physicians that are pro-vax. They are pro-vaccines in general. They're anti-COVID-19 vax because the necessary research has not been done. And now, just keep watching, y'all. Keep watching. Keep paying attention to those who have been vaccinated. Every single week, as time goes on, that list in terms of side effects for the COVID-19 vaccination is going to get longer and longer and longer. Because right now, and they may not televise it, they're not televising it, but right now, because I talk to people that go in and out of the hospitals as patients. Right now, there's people in there having complications due to the COVID vaccine. They're having complications, a lot of different complications in terms of headache, in terms of fainting, in terms of just not feeling well at all, feeling like they actually have COVID, the actual virus itself.
Absolutely.
Or some people say, well, shoot, I had COVID. I got the vax. I felt worse in those week or a couple of days that I had the side effects of getting the vaccine. So just keep your eyes open, keep paying attention.
And we have a certain portion of the population that are having side effects. So we need to keep track of what is happening, whether it's muscle aches, whether it's a change of your smell, whether you're having tinnitus, whether you're having developing heart problems, whether all of a sudden there's allergies being developed, whether all of a sudden there's cancers, because literally every person is a social experiment. So just pay attention. If you've taken the vaccines, if you know others who are taking the vaccines, just pay attention, because some of these vaccines will not show the real side effects maybe for a year out, 2 years, and you're thinking it's something else when it's a direct effect of taking the vaccines. And let's just be honest, we are the human experiment.
And I know when I look at, everything that's going on, especially with a mandate and people being forced, one of the biggest problems that I have is that the whole thing with COVID-19, the vaccine, everything, it has moved from being a medical issue to a political issue. And something that is medical in nature should never be a political issue, because we should always have the best interest of the people in heart and mind. But see, when it's a political issue, it's about political agendas and narratives. So like anytime that you have a medical issue, you have to do something called a risk assessment. And that's why you will never hear me say, take the vaccine or don't take the vaccine. No, because my risk assessment is different from yours. SAR's risk assessment is different from Ayodele. Ayodele's risk assessment is different from mine. But you always have to do a risk assessment. And if you're not doing that, then, you're not accounting for the nuances. It's not a one answer fits all. To deal with this, the ultimate goal is you're trying to be safe, and we're trying to get through this thing as safely as possible. I mean, and if we're looking at the information, looking at the science, we already said that the majority of people recover fully from this. We know that there is a certain population that COVID-19 is especially dangerous for. And those are people who have comorbidities. That means other conditions that compromise your immune system. Those people who are elderly, and those people who are obese, overweight. You know what I'm saying? So if you're looking at the majority of the population, they don't fit into this category. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have to do your own personal risk assessment. But because this COVID thing has become a political issue and not a medical issue, we're just falling into different tribes. You take the vaccine, don't take the vaccine. And logic is getting thrown out of the window. And what's in the best interest of the overall population, that gets faded into the distance. And what gets pushed to the forefront is my particular narrative, my particular agenda. And the agenda of the mainstream, according to all of the information, it does not align up with what's in the best interest of the people. Because anytime you say you got to take the vaccine, you got to take the vaccine, when a large population, when a large segment of the population, like 100 million people, already had the virus and has developed immunity that is more powerful than the vaccine. Absolutely. And then a large portion of the population don't fit into a vulnerable, that vulnerable category, who's going to bounce back from the virus anyway. When you say everybody gotta take it, or you can't work, or you can't do that, then that feeds to the distrust that we have, the natural and earned distrust that we have for the government and the system. Because like even when you talk about the measles and smallpox, when they had the vaccine back in then, they even acknowledge, if you already had it, you don't have to get the vaccine. You know what I'm saying? Because you develop a natural immunity. So, one of the big issues about this is distrust. We don't trust the government. And that's not something that's wild and crazy. That's something that the government has earned. They work very hard at earning this distrust. So, I just say that to the people. Don't fall into the hype of, I don't want to be around somebody that hasn't been vaccinated. I don't, or you've been vaccinated, you're just a fool. No, this is ridiculous. This is foolish. We need to be focused on what is necessary for us to move forward safely.
And to stay alive and to stay healthy at the end of the day. Because people are literally dying. And it's because they have health issues, underlying health issues, but it's being blamed on COVID. It's what's happening to the people that have taken the vaccine and they're still perishing. What's the reason for that? Is it the vaccine or underlying health conditions that was not helped by the vaccine? We have to be alert and be vigilant. Pay attention and take your notes.
And I would just like to say, y'all, I'm going to say it every week. Keep watching. This is a great time to be alive. We're literally watching this particular system crumble because all of this is a backfire.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So we have a Cadre Corner coming up, right?
Yes.
What's in our Cadre Corner?
We're going to be speaking about the Declaration of Independence of the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa.
The Declaration of Independence. You don't want to miss that. We'll be right back after this. Free the land.
We live in a collective paranoia. People dependent on each other's errors to control and exploit. Now and then we even communicate with one another.
Hello, my name is Dr. Christina Parks. I received my PhD in cellular and molecular biology right here in the state of Michigan from University of Michigan Medical School. And so I'm very well versed in the science of both these mRNA, gene therapy, vaccines, this kind of technology. What I want to address today in this limited time is the fact that vaccine requirements and mandates are based on the faulty assumption that the vaccines in question prevent transmission of the pathogen. Do the vaccines for COVID prevent transmission? No. In fact, they were never designed to do that. CDC Director Walensky basically said that these vaccines have no ability to prevent infection by and transmission of the Delta variant. Our policy needs not to be built on the hope of what we think something we want it to do, but what the data actually tell us.
Study the writings, speeches, documents of our freedom fighters in order to free our neo-colonialized minds. This is the Cadre Corner. The Declaration of Independence of the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa, formulated on the 31st of March, 1968. In Detroit, Michigan. Apparently, according to history, 500 delegates came and they met in various places in Detroit. And at the end of this conference, this convention, they sat down and formulated a preamble and the Declaration of Independence. And of course, it was signed by 200 people, with Queen Mother Moore being the first signatory. So I want to talk a little bit about the Declaration of Independence. We talked a little bit last week about the preamble, which was like the introduction to the Declaration of Independence. It is one of the best documents that I've read in a very, very, very long time, because it sets out a framework for why we are declaring ourselves independent from this nation. And it says, we black people in America, we've arrived and we've had to go through all kinds of atrocities, all types of oppression, and we want to declare ourselves free from this particular system, free from America. It talks about we want to declare ourselves free, independent, and the only thing that we want from this government is the right to be human beings, the right to honor our ancestors, the right, of course, to obtain reparations for all of the things that were done for us. So that's what I really appreciate about this document, that right from the beginning, you as a nation, America, the United States of America, you owe us reparations for all the things that were done to our ancestors and what was happening to us in present day. So that's a really, really, really strong point about the Declaration of Independence. And then it goes on to talk about, well, what are the aims of the revolution? And I think that's very, very, very important, because of course our aim is to free black people from oppression here in America, to support and to wage worldwide revolution from oppression. So we talked about, that's where we get our nationalist, Pan-African, of course, Pan-African leanings. It talks about also that we want to build a society better than what we have known and is as perfect as we can make it. What society are we planning on building? One that assures people maximum opportunity to access everything, all of their goals, their aspirations, their talents. It also promotes industriousness and responsibility. It's promoting, as part of the aims of the revolution, the ability to create conditions where we as a people can practice our religions without oppression, as long as that religious practice does not go against the aims of the revolution and the development of our society, because we are building a new society. We talk about the end of exploitation of man by man and its environment, which I was really, really, really impressed about. And then it also talks about we want to end sexism, which is very, very important in this society, and we want to eliminate that as New Africans. We want to end color and class discrimination. One of the things that we want to do is to place, which I think is very, very important, to differentiate capitalism in what we're trying to build as New Africans, is that we want to place the major means of production and trade in trust of the state. So right there, it gave us our edict to begin to create a society that's different than capitalism. And that's a conversation that New African Independence Movement is always, what is the opposite of capitalism? Because it clearly says in the aims of the revolution, that is what we're here to set up. And then to encourage everyone, individual, hard work, initiative, insight, and dedication and devotion. to the work and the aims of this revolution. And as I said before, Queen Mother Moore was the first signee. And I yield.
Okay, that was an excellent Cadre Corner. So the Declaration of Independence, it kind of lays the foundation of the things we need in order to have a successful nation. What really caught my eye was it identified an exploitive economic system that we're currently suffering under without necessarily naming it. And it actually identified an alternative in which we need to set up.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? When it's talking about the means of production being in control by the people. You know, if you don't understand about economic systems, we got to do a show about that by itself, because that's very important. And if you don't understand that, then what will happen is if you do get your independence,
Yes.
you'll set up the same system.
Exactly.
And you will oppress your own people. Then the only thing that will happen, the only thing that will change, we will replace a white oppressor with a black oppressor. And that's not what we're trying to do.
At all.
That's totally not what we're trying to do. And I mean, literally, we are shifting paradigms. We're going to complete opposite. Everything that Mama Ayo mentioned in terms of our Declaration of Independence, the new African Declaration of Independence, that takes some real work. That means us as the people have to implement that. So that means that we have to go through a transformation as new African people,
That's right.
as conscious citizens of the Republic of New Africa. We have to become the people that produce what our Declaration of Independence is aiming for.
Exactly.
So how do we do that? We do that through a process. And we take our citizens through work, study and training. It's imperative.
It's
It's
must.
imperative. We have to go through that transformation, that healing process as new African people.
Okay.
And what I really loved about the document is that the preamble speaks of the ills, the historical perspective, and then, of course, the Declaration of Independence. That's a key term. End exploitation of man by man and nature, because we're trying to be in harmony with the earth, and we're trying to live free on this earth, trying to unite with all people who are trying their best to end oppression, to end capitalism, imperialism, white supremacy, and racism, because no matter where we are, that is what is happening.
Exactly. So where can we find this document?
Oh, you can find it on the PGRNA website. And the address, of course, is www.pg-rna.com. Go in, create a login and a password for yourself, and of course take the census, and then it opens up to everything that's on the website, which is of course some of the historical documents, a few of our programs, and there's much more to come because we are building this particular website as we go, and it is going to be dynamic.
All right, that's an excellent Cadre Corner, and which kind of leads us to our topic of the day, because, you know, in the Declaration of Independence, it established our need and our desire for an independent, sovereign black nation.
Absolutely.
But it's still a lot of people who have the belief that we should be working through the system, whether that's through the Democratic Party, voting, and these type of things. And a lot of people, you know, we really attach ourselves to the liberal in the Democratic Party as the kind of like the saviors. But as I remember, a brother by the name of Malcolm X said that liberals and Democrats, liberals and conservative, are not really that different. They both want the same thing. They just have a different approach.
That's right.
Conservatives are like wolves. You see them coming a mile away. They basically come for you and say, I'm coming for your ass.
Mm-hmm.
But liberals are like foxes. They're more clever. They fashion their mouth in a way that it appears that they're smiling at you. They pretend to be your friend. Exactly. And once you have let them in, they pounce. And in many cases, they're more successful because of this tactics. So the question that we have is, are white liberals, really our friend? I open that up to anybody who wants to answer.
Yes, indeed. Well, coming from the Ministry of Health and Society, from this perspective, I've been working within the Ministry of Health and Society since 2004, and a big aspect of being well is mental health, right? And we know as black people living here in America, and abroad, we have issues, mental issues. And a lot of times our mental issues are we have inferiority complexes based upon our historical experiences within these particular white nations, right? Yet white people also have mental illness issues. They have superiority complexes that I'm just saying they it really affects them through and through and through. So whether they a white person that's conservative, or whether it's a white person that's a good white person that wants to help you out, this, that, or the other, white people need to go through a healing process as well before they try to come knocking on your door trying to help you.
Exactly.
Period. So our white liberals are friends. If they trying to come to you first before they go to their own people to heal thyself, heal their family, heal themselves from that superiority complex, they can't be your friend. They cannot.
Well, I just want to ask the listening audience, when you talk about that, we're talking about white privilege. Yes, we're going to have some people who are more humane in their behaviors and in their actions. However, their job, and we're asking them to take on this responsibility, is to make sure they sit at the dinner table. They go to the churches. They talk about, yes, we have done a grievous thing to the indigenous, to every indigenous people around the world, to the African, and we need to change that mentality because after all of the wealth, all of the resources, all of the technology is based on going and grabbing someone else's minerals, their raw materials from their earth, and transforming it. And a lot of the laws, a lot of the restrictions in all of these institutions, particularly here in America, are geared to make sure that they keep that white privilege at all times, because their Declaration of Independence says they are forever free for who? White males, no slaves, no indigenous, no white women. We have had to be in some form or fashion added to the Constitution, which doesn't mean mentally that we've been accepted like that. So white liberals, please remember this. White liberals, are they the reason why we have gentrification?
That's a whole other topic too.
It's a sore spot right there.
Speaking with forked tongues, wanting to improve, yet moving in and moving us out. That's white liberalism. And I yield on that one.
That's a good point. I think a very important thing we have to understand when analyzing white liberals is we have to understand the nature of politics. I don't think collectively black people really understand how politics works. Follow me on this, because politics, you dealing like a game of chess. Absolutely. And too many times we're playing checkers. And if you play checkers in a chess game, you get sacrificed.
Absolutely.
Follow me on this one. Mm-hmm. What white liberals tend to do is they come to the black community, hands extended, offering a beautiful symbiotic relationship where I help you, you help me, and we grow together. But when the dust clears, what ends up happening is we find that it was extremely parasitic because their agenda progresses and we're stuck in the same position as always. This happened during the civil rights movement.
Exactly.
We were on the front line. We were getting our head busted in. But at the end of the day, the people who benefited most from the civil rights movement are white women. Mm-hmm. White people, all white liberals always come to us saying, okay, extend our hand for help. But just look at this. Just think about this. Have you heard of something called the Lift Every Voice initiative? Just tell me, have you heard of that?
No.
You haven't heard of that, right?
No, I have not.
I didn't think so. But let me tell you what that was. That was Joe Biden's plan for Black America. And you probably ain't heard of it either because they ain't said nothing about it since the campaign. Think about that. Only thing they talk about as far as black people, we got to do something for everybody. We have to do something for everyone. And if you look at it, the LGBT community get laws passed all of the time. As soon as Joe Biden got elected, they got them a bill passed. The Asian people who had been going through some racism because of COVID-19 for a damn year, they get a bill for them, the Asian South Pacific anti-hate bill, exclusively for them. We can't get a damn anti-lynching bill.
Exactly.
You can't agree on an anti-lynching bill? What happened to the George Floyd bill? All of the promises that these liberals gave to us, if you give us their support. You know, you have Joe Biden on the Breakfast Club talking about, you ain't black if you don't vote for me. How dare you even let that white boy say that? You know what I'm saying?
Without repercussions.
Like I said, if you don't understand how to play chess and you're playing checkers in a chess game, you end up being pawns in someone else's game. And that's what happens to black people over and over and over. They take our movements, the momentum of our movements, and they use it to progress their movements, and we're left out in the cold, wondering what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So-
We really have to pay attention. I'm sorry. Did I
Oh, no, you can go for it.
We really have to pay attention to what is actually happening, not what folks are saying out of their mouths. What is happening? What's actually taking place? And I'm happy that you said some key things that you hear people say. Oh, this is for everyone. Beware of white people that say, oh, we all need to come together, specifically during this COVID time, right? Because white people are being affected by vaccine and COVID, and black people, and you're going to hear these white liberals say, we all need to come together. We all need to unify. We all need to. But let that conversation keep going. That superiority complex.
It's going to
Oh,
surface.
it surfaces very quickly.
And one thing that we have to be aware of, anytime you're in an organization and you're trying to build something, you never join in, align yourself with another organization when you're not completely organized yourself. This is what happens to us. Police kill us, and we get together and we say we want to make a movement. Then the liberals, they say, okay, this is how politics work. Whenever there is something, there is a dialectic. And I suggest people who are in leadership, you understand dialectics, because it'll help you look at the world, see what's going on. You can predict what's going to happen, and you can know what you need to be doing in order to progress your movement. But what happens is, as soon as something happens, black person get killed, there's a movement, a momentum. People who are politically savvy, they say, how can we use this to progress our movement? And they come down and they say, okay, these people are not organized, but we are. So let me lend your a hand. Let me help you out. Let me get you organized. And anytime you join with something when you're not organized, and you join with someone who is organized, you set yourself up for exploitation. Because every organization is geared toward progressing their movement, their agenda. All of them. We have to understand, we have to be able to look at what's happening, what's going on in this society, and say, okay, how can we use this to progress our movement? How can we organize in a way where our movement is progressed and our needs and our goals and objectives are being met? And if we're going to unite or align ourselves with someone else, we have to make sure that our needs, our agenda, our goals and our objective are not being neglected in order for us to support someone else's agenda. Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives, the left and the right, they're all both two wings of the same bird. And what we're not looking at is that bird of oppression in which both of these wings are supported.
Absolutely. And that's why we ask all of us, you and I are citizens of the Republic of New Africa. We declared our independence March 31st, 1968. You and I know all organizations that's looking for land separation, reparations, independent self-determination, we've been attacked. You know who's attacked us. COINTELPRO, FBI, the United States government. And we are in our process of rebuilding. We all should be aligned to the new African independence movement that has its values, its structure, how we want to conduct our lives to be free. Because if you're sitting in your seats right now and you say you're free, we're not talking about mind free. We're talking about conditions, food, clothing, housing, everything that goes, water. Are we really, really free?
Been lied to so much, can't believe the truth. But I be damned if I don't tell it before I leave the booth. Man, fuck a fairy tale, see I need the proof. Cause we tired of being tired.
Europeans murdered 98% of the indigenous population right here in Turtle Island in order to steal the land. An entire nation of African people were captured and forced into a brutal system of chattel slavery just so they could work and cultivate the land. All wars are fought over land, not over terrorism, not over religion, not even to win the hearts and minds of the people, but for the actual land and the resources within the land. So it is safe to say that land is the foundation to all freedom. So if we truly want to be free, then our struggle is for land. Free the land.
Leaders, scholars, freedom fighters, all those soldiers who've been struggling for the liberation of black people. This is the Black Power 5.
Did not suffer and die to give me an education to slight, oppress, or discourage my people. Because whatsoever education I acquired out of their sacrifice of over 300 years, I shall use for the salvation of the 400 million black people of the world. And the day when I forsake my people, may God Almighty say there shall be no more life for you. I unequivocally rejected the racist assumption of much white American Christianity, namely that God had created the black man inferior and that he had intended Negroes to be a servant class, hewers of wood and drawers of water. Well, I predicated my view of man on the doctrine of Imago Dei. All men, regardless of color, are created in the image of God. Now, from this premise followed the equality of all men and the brotherhood of all men. The biblical injunction of Acts 17:26 reminds us that he created of one blood all nations of men that dwell on the face of the earth. I was most interested in brotherhood within his own race, because if Negroes are created in God's image and Negroes are black, then God must in some sense be black.
And those were the wise words of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. What y'all think about that great ancestor?
Well, he's my hero.
Very powerful, brother.
Well, we know a little bit about him. Some people are scholars, you know. I mean, he is a whole course that should be taken in the university level, even high school level. He needs to be mentioned all the way from our kindergarten all the way up because, of course, this great man, born in Jamaica, St. Anne's, August 17th, 1887, and, of course, grew up and eventually ended up coming to America during the Harlem Renaissance, you know, 1918, 1919, 1920s. And when I say one of the most prolific orators and ability to organize and to speak to the masses of people about the conditions of black people during that time. He's just magnificent to read, to see, to even listen to. I mean, there's so much. Go ahead and, you know, chime in. There's so much.
I want to kind of chime in on the level of organization. Like, now remember, like during the 1920s, we already know what the climate was for black people during that time. There was no if and or but about who the enemy was. Huh? We talking about folks that is living through Jim Crow and lynchings, have seen and witnessed extreme violence and destruction on the black family and the black community. So his ability to organize and bring together thousands upon thousands of black people speaking truth and saying, look, and really pushing moral character, really pushing how we need to be treating one another, really pushing, look, we need to come together to make sure that we have all of our basic needs taken care of in terms of trade, in terms of going back to Africa, what that looks like, and just extremely thorough.
You know, when I excuse me, when I revisit Garvey, the thing that really sticks out was the level of independence that he was able to achieve way back then. You know, I mean, he had, the Black Star Line. He had the Universal Negro Improvement Association. He actually pulled off a plebiscite in the Madison Square Garden with 25,000 people, and they voted that we need our own. You know, the foundation of the Black New African Independence movement, lie right there in the things that Garvey was doing. He's the one that created the red, black, and green flag.
Absolutely.
So we have to give him a mad amount of credit. When you listen to this brother talk, he was especially harsh on our people who did not believe that we needed our own. He would say, you basically a sorry human being if you can't get up and get the same thing for yourself as other people have done for themselves.
Yes.
He made, and I look at that to a lot of people today. We act like we can't do anything for self, but back when he had a fraction of the resources that we have today, he was able to achieve so much. And it goes back to something you said. Back then, we knew clearly who our enemy was.
Absolutely.
Right now, those lines have been blurred. We think these black liberals, as we just talked about, are our friends. And we don't understand what we should be fighting against and what should we be fighting for. But Garvey knew that. So that's one of the reasons why we ought to study this brother.
Oh, absolutely. And just knowing that he always talked about, I remember that he talked about the Nurses Corps. I talked about all the Black Legions, and there were great grand parades. And to know that he organized across the world, some say 4 million, some say 6 million, but knowing that somewhere when you talk to an elder, they say, oh, yeah, I participated in sending my dollar in to help the Black Star Line. That was an amazing feat for us to even begin to manufacture black dolls during that time. And he always talked about in order for us to be called independent, we must have our own manufacturing plants, sewing, all of the things that we would do to, of course, create all those basic needs. And to know that Garvey respected women highly. Not only did he have such a love for African people, he talked about we were great. We will always be great. We have history at our side. And I think that's one of the reasons why he had to be sent out of America. They had to, and black people helped conspire to bring him down. I invite all of us to look up the Declaration of the Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World. This document has been placed in history, and when we talk about what it has embodiment, about 54 different points where he talks about lynching, he talks about the mistreatment of women, he talks about the mistreatment of men, our educational system. In it, he says, Africa for Africans, at home and abroad, that our flag will be the red, black, and green. When we speak about what this foundational document is, this is one of the founding documents that the Republic of New Africa was built on. So we're just a continuation of something that was already set up for us. He's one of our founding mothers and fathers.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Very important brother. One thing I know that a lot of people don't talk about that Garvey spoke heavily on was he said that you can't defeat and I'm paraphrasing, you can't defeat your oppressor if you're worshiping God in the image of your oppressor. He actually produced a black image of Jesus back in the day when we were just heavily indoctrinated with this Christian theology and having this white savior, and he produced an image of a black Jesus, a black God, so we can break the spiritual chains of enslavement. So he was a complete, brother. He was on all levels of independence from your mind, body, soul.
Yes,
absolutely.
He knew the importance of having black images, black everything, black, the importance of it on the new African mind. He knew that because that's the battle now, the battle of our people's mind. Like was mentioned before, we even have more resources quote unquote now, access to more things, yet we do not have our mind because we do not see our own images. We do not see our own flag on a regular basis. We don't see that of our own. We don't see our own people doing trade internationally, this, that, the other. He made sure that that was visual and that everybody was involved with it.
In building that particular institution. And that's why he had to be. He had to be brought down. I believe that that's one of the first people that they targeted, you know, J. Edgar Hoover. One of the first individuals, and it went on from there, and it has continued all the way up to today under the auspices of COINTELPRO, FBI, CIA, snitches, all of it.
And actually, little known fact, Garvey is the reason why COINTELPRO was so strong. Because J. Edgar Hoover, that was one of his first assignments, Marcus Garvey, and he saw how powerful Garvey was and what Garvey almost accomplished. And he realized, okay, we can't allow these black people to gain their independence. That's why Garvey always said, always be wary of a black messiah. Because he saw what Garvey was. And in Garvey, he saw a black messiah that could lead black people and overthrow this system of oppression and white supremacy once and for all. So
yes, indeed, because if we stand up for self, do for self, and are totally self-determined, you already know this system of capitalism is built on your blood and on your back.
Absolutely.
Period. And if that happens, this particular system crumbles. And everything that they have worked for, or generation after generation, in terms of being oppressors, being rapists, going the length to get, the length of killing off generation after generation after generation of black people and indigenous people, it will crumble.
As it is crumbling.
Yeah. When the system falls, humanity rises.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Humanity.
No doubt, no doubt. And I think that's just going to about do it for us for the New African Perspective. My name is Brother Prophecy. I am here with Madam President Salma Ott and Madam Vice President Ayodele, Mama Ayodele. Until next time, free the land.
Man, fuck a fairy tale, see I need the proof. Cause we tired of being tired, you can see the youth looking pissed off and frustrated. A threat to the status quo is what got us hated. Now they wanna take us out, they got us faded. Cause we banging on the system, so they must hate it. But that's the system though, they push a man to the ground, then they kick him slow. They infiltrate your whole count, the shit is